We're ready to go. And welcome to the April 2nd, 2025 Pinellas County Board of Adjustment and Appeals hearing. We received your cases in advance, and we have studied them and in some cases visited the site. Please understand that we do not bring these cases. We are citizens tasked with weighing the evidence submitted in order to make the most informed decision possible. We have no personal interest or stake in these cases except for the overall good of the community. Staff has made a recommendation on each case, and that recommendation is input only and may not necessarily be the opinion of this board. If you're planning to speak for or against any application, you must be sworn in prior to testifying. If you've not been sworn in, please do so now with the clerk at the front table over here. This is how we will proceed. When your case is called by staff, the applicant should come up to the podium and give us your name and address. The applicant will then present their case, including comments from any supporters in attendance. Comments by supporters should be new information, not just an expression of support. The applicant may display the volume of support by a show of hands. Speakers will have 3 minutes. Opponents will then be given an opportunity to state their objection. If there are numerous opponents, it is preferable for them to select 1 or 2 spokespersons. Speakers will have 3 minutes. Any subsequent objector should add new information, not just rehash prior stated objections. Opponents may also display the volume of objectors by a show of hands. This will be the only opportunity for opponents to state their case. The applicant will then return solely to rebut the comments of any opponents and may not bring any new information or testimony at that time. Finally, we will close the public hearing. The board will discuss the case, make a motion, and vote. And I just wanted to say one item for my board is when Renee sends the email in the beginning, could you guys please RSVP in a timely manner? I would appreciate that. And I will turn it over to our attorney who will provide additional information on our procedure.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The matters heard by the Board of Adjustment and Appeal are quasi-judicial in nature. Please note that only competent, substantial, fact-based testimony or evidence may be considered by the board in deciding the matters before it. Pure speculation or opinion, not based on competent facts, cannot be legally considered by the board. Lay testimony with fact-based support, including but not limited to meeting minutes, surveys, engineering reports, etc., may be considered competent and substantial evidence. And also, Madam Chair, there is one case, and we can speak to it later on the agenda, where a variance and a type 2 use will be heard together. I would just ask that the chair or the board clarify with each, the applicant, it'll be obvious, but with each commenter that which case they're speaking to, if they're speaking to both the type 2 use and the variance that they state so for the record.
Okay.
For evidence purposes. Thank you.
Okay. And Michael, call the first case, please.
Yes, good morning.
Did I do everything?
Our first case is VAR 24-25. Just a couple of variances requested for the R3 zone property located at 1342 Alaska Avenue in Palm Harbor. The first variance is to allow for the construction of an in-ground pool and spa having a 6-foot rear setback from the water's edge of the pool to the southern property line where 8 feet is required. And the second variance is to allow for the construction of a covered porch with an outdoor kitchen having a 6-foot rear setback from the southern property line where 10 feet is required. Staff's recommendation is conditional approval. The subject property is a corner lot with Alaska Avenue designated as the front and 14th Street as the side street. Lots developed with a single-family home. The applicant intends to construct an in-ground pool, spa, covered porch, and outdoor kitchen. The land development code requires that pools on non-waterfront properties have an 8-foot rear setback measured from the water's edge or the minimum rear setback of the zoning district, whichever is less. Additionally, a covered porch with outdoor kitchen also necessitates compliance with full setback requirements. The proposed location of these improvements would be along the rear yard and is the only logical place for its installation. No other setback reductions are being requested by the applicant. If the variance request is approved, the addition of this in-ground pool and covered porch would not be out of character with the surrounding neighborhood. Again, staff recommends conditional approval.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Your name and address, please.
Aaron Sanchez, 1342 Alaska Avenue, Palm Harbor, Florida, 34683.
You take good direction. Thank you for being there. All right. Are there any objectors to this case? Don't see any.
Seeing no objectors, excuse me, seeing no objectors, I'm going to move for staff recommendation of conditional approval in accordance with the findings of fact as outlined in the staff report.
Second.
Second. Is there any other discussion from the board? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes, I think, 5-0. And it's, the motion was made by Mr. Baumstein and seconded by Mr. Warner.
6-0.
6-0.
Hope you count.
Never can count.
Never count.
I'm looking there, oh yeah, there's not any seats there. 6-0.
I'm your
You got your
count.
variance.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Well, now it's gonna be 7-0.
Here comes
This will
seven.
make it easier for me.
All right. Our next case is VAR 24-27. This is a variance to allow for the conversion of approximately 252 square feet of covered unconditioned storage area into an enclosed conditioned space for a bathroom, having an 18-foot side setback from the top of bank of the adjacent canal, or 25 feet is required from the top of bank. The property located at 607 8th Street in Palm Harbor. Staff recommends conditional approval. This property is a corner lot, or 8th Street is the front, and Ohio Avenue is the side street. The property is also adjacent to a canal. The site is developed with a detached single-family home, which was constructed in 2002, and also includes a swimming pool, deck, open porch storage area, and screen enclosure. A review of the plat reveals there's a significant easement along the canal side of the property. In 2004, a prior homeowner vacated a portion of this easement, which was approximately 532 square feet. Following this vacation, a covered porch with the open storage was constructed. The applicant seeks to convert 252 square feet of this area into the conditioned space for a bathroom. The enclosed portion of the covered porch would be closer to the top of bank than normally allowed per code. Staff's opinion that the proposed renovations will have little impact on the neighboring properties, as the proposed storage room conversion would back up to the canal. Also, no additional structures or exterior improvements are being proposed by the applicant that would increase the footprint of the existing single-family residence or create further setback encroachments. The proposed renovation will occur under the existing roof. Just want to bring up, there was discussion at the Development Review Committee meeting. There was some concerns from staff that the proposed variance did not reveal a justifiable hardship. In addition, since the property is within the coastal high hazard area, the floodplain administrator identified that there may be floodplain-related variances that would be required if this variance was granted, and those are listed as part of the conditions that they would have to check and see if they would have to go through any additional approval through the floodplain requirements.
Okay, good morning. Your name and address, please?
Joseph Barbara, 607 8th Street, Palm Harbor, Florida, 34683.
Thank you. Are there any objectors to this case?
Are you aware of the floodplain issue that Mr. Schoederbeck is talking about?
Yes, this addition the grade of the slab will be level with the existing slab of the house, which is above. I have a certificate of elevation, which is above the 11-foot, which is required for that area. So there'll be a stem wall built, and then the actual, almost 4 feet, and the actual slab of the going into the house will be level with the rest of the house. It's not going to be stepped down or anything like that. The entire house is about 4 foot off of the grade of the property, the first floor, and then it goes up from there.
Who maintains that canal behind your house?
I don't know. It's labeled a canal. Basically, there's a sewer. I took a picture of it right at the end of it with a culvert going into it, and it's literally 6 inches deep. Sometimes it goes completely dry if you don't have rain.
Part of the stormwater system.
Because it appears that nobody maintains.
No,
Nobody
I
maintains
do.
it.
I pick up garbage
Honestly.
out of it. That's
It's
about
part
it.
of a greater stormwater system that then leads out to the bay. So there's a connection, and the easement over it is a drainage easement to Pinellas County.
Okay.
Pinellas County.
All right, as long as you're aware of the conditions and the concerns of what Mr. Schoederbeck is saying is that disapproval, if you get it here, is not a slam dunk You still need to get site plan, what?
Yeah, what does he need to do?
During permitting, which he's addressed that it's going to be raised up because the current elevation of the storage is below
I got you.
flood.
Oh, okay.
So if the increase requires any additional review during permitting, they've just brought up that there might be additional process to go
Make
through.
sure it's clear in your permitting process that you are going to be above floodplain.
Yeah, the only thing that hasn't cleared in permitting is the zoning. Everything, it's already went through building, it's already went through habitat, went through everything already.
Right.
Okay, good.
Seeing as there's no objections, I'm going to move for staff recommendation of conditional approval in accordance with the findings of fact as outlined in the staff report.
Second.
All right, is there any discussion? We have a motion from Mr. Baumstein and a second from Mr. Warner. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It passes 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bello, sorry, Mr. Bello seconded it. I'm missing it. Sorry.
A lot of swords this morning.
Man,
Did you guys switch
Definitely,
seats and then?
didn't you switch seats?
I just sat
Oh, whatever. Sorry, Mr. Bello.
That's quite all right. His credibility
She's
is
probably got it better than I do.
good, yes, yes.
We like to mix up the season.
I know, I'm like, I don't even know what.
Keep us on our-
Keeping
keep
you
us
on
Now
your
I got to get on my game.
Be on your toes.
I've been called worse.
The next, I'm going to present the next two cases because
Okay.
they're related, the variance and the type 2 use. So the first is the variance VAR 24-23. This is a variance request to allow for 2 off-site parking lots for overflow parking located approximately 1,700 feet from the subject property, where 600 feet is the maximum allowed for off-site parking lots for the RA and R3 zone property located at 1743 Doncaster Road in unincorporated Largo. Staff recommends conditional approval. So the applicant is looking to expand the allowable uses on the property. That's part of the type 2. And so this, which necessitates that type 2 approval. This request is a variance concerning off-site parking for these uses. An on-site parking area is located next to the current access road from Doncaster Road, comprising of 18 parking spaces. So that available parking on site is insufficient to support some of the proposed land uses and activities. So the applicant has entered into an agreement with 2 nearby institutions, Belcher Elementary School and Temple B'nai Israel, to facilitate off-site parking during medium-sized events, which will include shuttle services for pickup and drop-off during these occasions. In total, approximately 224 parking spaces are available for their use. The code requires that off-site parking must be within 600 feet and easily accessible by walking, public transit, or shuttle service. However, the site is situated about 1,700 feet from the 2 off-site parking locations, which necessitates this variance request. Staff believes that the requested variance is justifiable as it would mitigate potential traffic impacts on adjacent residential properties and preserve the existing environmental features on the site by using these current existing parking facilities instead of building new parking facilities on the site. I'll go into the type 2 request.
And Michael, can I ask you one question?
Sure.
They're leaving the parking or whatever is on the property right now staying the same.
Correct, there's 18.
That was somebody's question.
There's 18 parking spaces on the site. They came in and met with us, and they were looking at other areas on the site to add parking, but due to a lot of the environmental nature, there's a lot of preservation, it's close to creek out there, that it would not be supportable by staff to add additional parking on the site. So they looked into this parking arrangement and the closest facilities that could necessitate this amount of parking are 1,700 feet away. Thank you. So the second part of this is the type 2 use, type TY2-24-07. This is a request for a modification of a previously approved type 2 use for agricultural activities, commercial use, equine-related therapeutic sessions, which was approved. They're looking to allow the addition of a club, community service and fraternal use and meeting hall, community assembly facility use in an RA and R3 zone for the property located at 1743 Doncaster Road in unincorporated Largo. Staff recommends conditional approval. The subject property encompasses approximately 12.7 acres and features a detached single-family residence along with various agricultural structures, including a horse farm, stable, barn, and riding area. In 2020, the applicant received approval from the Board of Adjustment and Appeals for the therapeutic sessions involving horses that are kept on the property. No new construction was proposed at that time, as is the existing facilities were deemed sufficient. The board has previously granted several variances concerning horse-related accessory structures such as the barn and covered arena located on the property. The applicant seeks to expand the allowable uses on the property, which are covered under the club, community service, and fraternal activities use of the code, in addition to hosting community events on site. These events would encompass weekly workshops for veterans and seniors, field days for individuals with special needs, corporate retreats, weddings, and other gatherings. The applicant has submitted a comprehensive narrative detailing all proposed on-site programming and community events. And additionally, that they're also requesting that variance for the off-site parking area to accommodate those. So the proposed business operations are designed to make use of existing structures without significantly impacting the adjacent residential neighborhood. Furthermore, the environmental characteristics presented on the site indicate that the activities will be adequately buffered and screened from the residential properties to the north and east, thereby not creating any additional nuisance for nearby residents. So they're not adding any parking on the site, they're not adding any structures, they're looking to utilize the current structures on the site. The applicant can speak more, but they indicated us at the DRC that they they may bring in temporary tents for events, but no new permanent structures. Again, staff recommends conditional approval with the conditions as outlined in the staff report. Thank you.
Is the applicant here?
Michael, can you just speak to the frequency of and the number of events that are currently allowed and would be allowed if this variance were granted?
I will turn
Like
the applicant
I'm sorry.
Good morning.
that.
Good morning, Jamie Mayer of the law firm Hillward
You can even
Henderson.
stand in the middle, Jamie, and it should
Thank you. It's been a
pick you
while.
should pick you up, I hope.
Perfect. Jamie Mayer of the law firm Hillward Henderson, representing the applicant, 101 East Kennedy Boulevard, Suite 3700, and I have been sworn. Yes, we did. So there is an operations sheet proposing the number of events, and I will show that in my presentation in chief. It is a pretty limited number, a total of, for example, 4 weddings per year, a maximum of 3 private events per month, all during very reasonable hours. If I could, we'd like to show a video before I go into my PowerPoint presentation so there's not some weird jumps in between media.
Sure.
To show you, it's going to incorporate remarks from the applicant's founder, who is here, and she would speak to you live, but we thought it'd be more efficient to show you a video that incorporates the same remarks that she would be making, as well as show you what the use is as the background for what we're proposing today. So if the audio-visual people could run the video, I'll just kind of...
I think people assume that these populations have enough things for them to do and enough activities for them to feel good about themselves, but they don't, not even close. At a rec center, there might be 1 class a month that's truly dedicated to a special needs community, but there is the need. So if there's a need, there's people out there that can help.
Look how girl. I'm so proud of you. You're doing good.
It started because of Kaylee. She had great confidence when she was around the horses.
It makes me a lot more happy because my mom and my family built this farm for me. Be the only person I am.
Well, I know that I have challenges, but I'm overcoming them. Health issues, I have heart problems, a lot of challenges.
He has really severe vascular disease, which is from the Williams syndrome. Most of his vessels are the size of a 6-month-old. So they had to redesign his vascular system. I know, right? You'd never know. Never complain. Never.
Come on. Come on, boy.
These programs are magic. They provide healing, they provide transformation, they allow people to experience the choice. They get to be the director, the maestro, the maestra, the conductor. It is healing. It does bring joy.
It's not only confidence building, but also being active. You know, being outside, being in nature, but also making yourself feel important and loved. I want this to be forever, that they have a hub, they have a place to be able to have indoor activity or outdoor activity that's constant.
It has given me opportunities to connect with the staff and the horses and all the people who come here. And it's been awesome. I feel happy and excited to be here.
Friendships are always a challenge. And he now has true friends. Friends that love him, friends that accept him just the way he is.
I feel good on the horse.
You feel good on the horse?
Yeah.
There's nothing that's like this, where you're outside with nature for the special needs community. You come here, you feel tranquil, and then whatever activities you are doing, you're more engaged because you're relaxed. And compared to being in a therapy setting in a building, and what better place is to be with the horses and with other people.
He really looks forward to coming here, and he's so happy here. It's his place.
They need to get out and do things, and doing things with other individuals will help them with relationship building, with behavioral problems that they might be experiencing.
That's the magic of the program, life.
And a lot of cool stuff happens here. I'm really getting stronger, and a lot more confident. I'm connecting with the staff and the horses and my friends. It's a huge village here. It feels good, it feels happy.
For me, it makes me a lot more happy. It's my life.
Thank you for your attention. So if I could just switch to my PowerPoint, if that's possible. Thank you so much. Okay. Test the clicker. So you've seen what Inspired Acres does, and I want to reiterate that this is not going to change. So we're not coming here today for a different use. The proposal is to diversify the range of programming that they can provide to the same individuals that they currently serve, and to diversify the types of special events that they can hold, which they do already do in a more limited capacity, but it will allow them to be a more self-sustaining use because they are a nonprofit. So right now, the only way that they can continue to do what they do is through a stream of donations and the few fundraising events that they do hold. The club community service type 2 use will allow them to be able to be more self-sustaining, and I'll show you in the operations sheet later on the kinds of things that they're proposing. Just for a perspective though on some of the annual costs that they face, the horse care alone, I think we all know horses are expensive. It's about $80,000 per year. The grounds maintenance, upkeep, you've seen the beautiful property in a normal year, that can cost $60,000 per year. In a heavy hurricane season, you can imagine that number can look a little different. Certificates, training for staff, that's about $7,000 per year at least. And then to even just provide these programs to keep the costs low, minimal for the participants is about $25,000 per year. So these are just some of the annual expenses, the major expenses that they face, and without this stream of donations, without an ability to be more self-sustaining, they cannot last. The other part of the request, as staff explained, is a variance that's for the sole purpose of providing overflow parking off-site. So I did see a few comments from some neighbors who had sent in questions or comments, and I think there was a misunderstanding. The overflow parking is not getting constructed or paved or anything like that on Inspired Acres. So what you see in the aerial, what you've seen in these videos, nothing new, like construction-wise, is coming. No new paving, nothing like that. And I think that the fact that the parking is going to be off-site, in addition to not being new paving, I think it further alleviates concerns that neighbors have expressed about parking on site. And I just again want to reiterate, we're proposing the same essential use. Currently, under that agricultural activities commercial use, that's the existing type 2 use, which is an approved type 2 use under the RA zoning. That allows for this agricultural focus of therapeutic recreation sessions and the kinds of special events that they do currently hold, their signature fundraising event, and things like Special Olympics training. This new club community service in discussions with staff has a wider umbrella of the kinds of programming that they can provide. So they can provide adaptive dance, adaptive theater, adaptive sports for these same communities, craft workshops, cooking workshops. While the equine use is the spark that really ignited this whole thing, there are so many more opportunities on this beautiful 13-acre site to provide opportunities for these same individuals to therapeutically recreate and have a place that's dedicated for them in perpetuity. And again, as I mentioned, many guests to either the signature fundraising event or participants will say, hey, can we hold a wedding here? Can we some afternoon have a corporate retreat here? This would allow them to do that, and just a few of these events per year would contribute a significant amount of self-sustaining fundraising use of the site to contribute to those expenses that they face. So again, the type 2 approval, you've heard what it is in accordance with the staff report and these materials that the applicant submitted. It is consistent with the criteria of section 138-241. Compatibility in particular is addressed through the conditions of approval and through the site design. I wanted to address, we did also see some comments from neighbors about a recent event that they held. That was their signature annual fundraising, which was supposed to be in November, got pushed to March just a couple weeks ago, about a month ago now, because of the hurricane season. I want to just explain there is a new management team since last year of the nonprofit because they've grown since they got this original type 2 use approval. They have a much more professional, polished team who's got more experience with managing a nonprofit. That being said, the new team took some of their cues from the old team and how they operated their annual signature event that they've been holding for several years. And the way that the noise levels reached was not necessarily in compliance with the conditions of approval at that time. So they took those cues from the old team, and candidly, I sat down with them and said, okay, here are the conditions of approval that you have right now. Those are carrying over if the board is inclined to grant this request today. Now they understand what is permitted, what is not permitted, wasn't communicated by the prior team who was not always operating in line with that with respect to the noise levels. So I just wanted to address that now. However, we are unaware of any formal complaints that have ever been lodged against the use in the history of the events that they have held. Just a close-up of that 18-space parking lot that currently exists, and this serves their daily, weekly programming and the smaller type events. That's not going to change. Again, the variance that we're requesting is the only form of relief associated with this request, or only a form of code relief. And the only reason it's a variance is because those lots are 600 feet away from the drop-off point. If it were within that, they would be able to use these off-site parking lots without the special request for a variance. But this is actually, we find, better than having to pave a new parking lot on site in addition to the environmental constraints of the site. It is better for the neighbors to, one, not have that new paved parking lot, and two, not have vehicles coming in parking on site. This will allow them to basically outsource that parking burden. They are proposing a courtesy shuttle, like a Sprinter van type shuttle that's dedicated to taking the groups of people who are parking on a very clear path, dropping them off deep into the site, not at the mouth of the gate or on the street, in a way that the neighbors would be very much aware of the comings and goings from the courtesy shuttles. So we find this is an added degree of sensitivity that addresses compatibility concerns with parking. So to the proposed events, we did include this in your packets, but I just wanted to draw attention here again. The proposal is not suddenly special events, private events every night of the week or weekend. Again, weddings are proposed to be seasonal up to 4 times per year. It will go a long way to contributing more of a self-sustaining way to fund the use. Same with the private events, they're proposed up to 3 times a month, and all of these are proposed within very regular, reasonable hours. They already have, as you've seen, that weekly, daily programming. This will allow them to just widen the array of programs that they can provide. So they can have the horse programming, they can have the group adaptive craft, therapeutic gardening, and so forth. You've seen the impact that this program has on its participants and their families. You've seen, I handed out earlier, and I believe it reached you, letters of support from leaders of programs in the region who also serve special needs communities. These programs rely on Inspired Acres for what they can do that these other programs cannot do. There are folks who drive hours just for a 45-minute horseback riding session because of the sheer impact it has on their lives. These groups have just as much of a need, if not more of a need, as anybody else to have a place to do things for them. That's what it can continue to do so long as it can sustain itself. And finally, this is the type of large estate lot that the BOCC has made pretty express directive to try to protect where possible. For example, policies recently in Eastlake and the Seminole area, and this would protect it from the degree of development that we're seeing otherwise throughout the county. And this board would have the opportunity to, ensure that this use can remain viable if it can sustain itself and remain here, hopefully in perpetuity, on this site. And with that, we do respectfully request your approval. Myself and members of the team and some folks who'd like to speak in support are here for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jamie, under the current allowable uses, I believe you are currently allowed to have a certain number of events a year. I read that somewhere in the case. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes. I don't know if it's actually a specified number of special events. It's just not the same kinds of special events. They do hold events currently, but they can't hold, for example, weddings or let private, corporate groups have a 10-person retreat there. And this is actually going to put, we have committed to now a number of events, and I apologize if I'm incorrect, but I don't think that there was a specific number previously, but that is kind of being committed to more so here today.
It was one of the conditions of the previous in 2020 was for temporary uses. Standards shall be met, which allows for no parcel shall be occupied by a temporary use for more than 60 days in any calendar year. So they have up to 60 days every year currently, and they'd have to apply for these temporary uses when they hold events.
I know there's some supporters here. Is there maybe a spokesperson or whatever that would like to come up and speak in support? Thanks, Jamie.
Madam Chair, while the gentleman's walking up, I just want to make sure that everything the applicant presented was presented in the clerk, Madam Clerk, was under both case numbers, both under the type 2 use and the variance for the record. I'm just trying to make sure that we have everything in the record under both case numbers.
Yes, we did submit the packets a few weeks ago, as well as the PowerPoint presentation, if that's and the letters of support were provided today.
Yeah, I just want to make sure the clerk's got under both case numbers. Thanks. Sorry about that.
And do you want, like, the speakers speaking on one case or another? That's...
I realize it's tedious, but there's a reason for it. So if they're speaking to the variance and the type 2 use,
They can talk about both then, or
then
whatever.
if they could say so at the beginning of the remarks, that would be extremely helpful for the record.
Just to be clear, if you're addressing the off-site parking, that's part of the variance request. If you're addressing the use of the facility for special functions, that's the type 2. So we have to, unfortunately, we have to.
Or if you're going to talk about both, you can say both, apparently, right?
Right. They
Right,
say
you
that
can say you're
they're
talking
speaking to
about
the variance and
both.
the type 2.
Okay.
I realize it's painful
Okay.
nomenclature, but it's just what we have to do in this scenario.
Okay. And your names and addresses, please?
I'm Mikey Johnson. This is my mom, Deborah Johnson. We currently are residing at 6690 Gulf Winds Drive in St. Pete Beach, Florida.
And Mikey, you can actually stand in the middle of there, and you don't have to speak into the mic, and it'll pick you up, hopefully. Yep.
So I'll begin. Hi, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Mikey Johnson. I will begin by asking you by asking, why do I love Inspired Acres? It is a peaceful place. It is calming, beautiful, amazing. There are a lot of friendships made there, and your heart rate and blood pressure instantly drop. Inspired Acres is pure bliss. I could go on and on about what I love about it and why. Do yourself a favor and be part of the inclusive, magical little spot in the middle of Pinellas County. You'll be so happy you did. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Deborah Johnson and currently at 6690 Gulf Winds Drive, St. Pete Beach, 33706. Speaking about both, and I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with lives in our situations with adults who have special needs, health or whatever, seniors and veterans. I've spent a lot of time at Inspired Acres, and a lot of our lives are doctor's appointments, hospitals, therapy centers, and Inspired Acres gives us that opportunity to be with nature, with people who are amazing, a place that, like Mikey said, instantly lowers our blood pressures, our stress levels, and it's just a wonderful and amazing opportunity right here in Pinellas County. And I really do hope that all of you have a chance to go see it, visit it, experience it. It's inclusive, it's amazing. And it really adds a lot. We're hurricane survivors and currently displaced. Well, we're just moving back here, but we've been driving in from Ocala every single week because that's how much it means to us. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Any other supporters? Okay. Give me a hand raise, all you guys. Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you. Opponents? Somebody want to start it off? And you're sworn in, I believe. Okay. Come on up. Morning.
Hi, Janet Muscalina. I reside at 1707 Doncaster Road, Clearwater, Florida, 33764.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak today regarding the two cases concerning the property at 1743 Doncaster Road, what I will refer to hereon as the equine property. And I am opposing both the Type 2 variance and the variance and the modification Type 2 cases. As I said, my name is Janet Muscalina, and I was born and raised in Pinellas County, and I have never lived anywhere else. Currently, my home is 1707 Doncaster Road, which is 3 properties away from the equine property. My family and I have lived in our home for 11 years, drawn to this neighborhood because of its peaceful and serene environment, particularly the solitude that our backyard provides as it overlooks Allen's Creek. First, I would like to express that in general, I support the equine therapy program. My son actually volunteered there a few years ago, and we recognize the positive impact that it has on individuals on the spectrum, veterans with PTSD, etc. However, we do have concerns about the proposed variance and modification and potential impact it may have on our neighborhood. On Monday, March 17th, I emailed my concerns to the zoning division and Chris Latvola. I included some videos in my emails. I don't know if you all have access to those videos, but I'll talk about them here in a second. My primary concerns relate to 2 key areas, and I believe this represents the view of most, if not all, residents on Doncaster Road. Number 1, the events and the amplified sound. We are particularly troubled by the planned fundraising events, the holiday parties, the sports activities, the team building exercises, corporate events, weddings, club or fraternal gatherings, because of the use of DJs and auctioneers and microphones or stereo speakers. It's not merely theoretical. We recently experienced excessive noise from an auction hosted at the equine property on March 6th. In my email, I provided a link to those videos demonstrating this issue, including one from my backyard and another one from inside my house, where noise from the event carried clearly into our bedroom and bathroom. Additionally, I sent a video recorded on March 14th, which serves as a contrast, demonstrating the usual peacefulness of our backyard. And then I also included a screenshot of the county's noise ordinance. And Chapter 58 of that ordinance, Article 12 states it is unlawful to create or to permit to be created any noise within a residential zone that exceeds 72 decibels during the hours of 7 a.m. and 11 p.m., measured at the nearest adjacent property line. And AI states that common sounds around 72 decibels includes a kitchen exhaust fan, a garbage disposal, a washing machine, or an AC unit at 100 feet, to name a few. My videos demonstrate that the noise from the equine property would be considered unlawful. Also take into consideration that I wasn't even standing at the nearest adjacent property line when capturing those videos. And please also consider that the modification would allow for more of these activities and possibly on a regular basis. This neighborhood is a residential zone for everyone here except those at the equine property. The owners do not live on the equine property. Our neighbors, Dave and Mandy Wallen, living 1 block away, also reported hearing the auction event, illustrating the extent of the disruption. We understand that occasional noise from gatherings is inevitable and on rare occasions forgivable. However, if the proposed activities are approved, similar noise violations could become a frequent occurrence, potentially happening every 3 to 4 weeks. Given the adjacency of Allen's Creek, sound is naturally amplified over the water, further exacerbating the disturbance to nearby residents. My second concern involves the increased traffic and parking overflow. The proposed activities suggest an increase in vehicular traffic, including cars and sprinter vans shuttling guests from overflow parking areas. This raises concerns about congestion, safety, and the overall character of our quiet neighborhood. I have 2 photos of the actual pavement of our Doncaster Road. I didn't submit them ahead of time, but the photos show that the edges of the road crumble, which indicate that it wasn't engineered to withstand potential higher traffic loads. Again, this is a residential neighborhood. The Type 2 use review detail submitted by the applicant outlines with the modification that they may host up to 6 weddings per year, hosting up to 200 attendees per wedding. Their website, I think, advertises 240 or 240 attendees. Up to 1 corporate team building retreat per quarter for 20 participants, and other workshops, field days, family days for up to 75 people per event. This type of activity would be inconsistent with the residential neighborhood surrounding the equine property. If you would like to see my videos or photos, I would be happy to share them with you. This is generally a quiet and peaceful community, and the proposed changes have the potential to significantly alter that. Additional traffic and noise not only disrupt our daily lives, but also have the potential to devalue our homes and diminish the quality of life for residents on Doncaster Road. I appreciate your time and consideration of my concerns, and I hope that you will take them into account when making your decision on this variance and modification request. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you.
I watched your video I think that the auction was taking place, and you videoed it from your pool deck and then from inside your kitchen. Approximately what day of the week and what time of day was that?
It was a Thursday, and the first video was still with sunlight. I believe it was around 5 p.m., roughly, 4:30, 5:30, somewhere around there. And then the second video, it was dark out. It was roughly 8:30 at night.
Same day?
Same night, yes. Yes.
Okay. Have there been other instances besides that one?
Yes. And yes, there have been other instances, a couple times per year. Again, we forgive, a couple times per year. We understand that they're doing a great thing with the people who come to the equine property for therapy. So we haven't had an issue with it for the 11 years or, however long they've been holding these auctions or fundraising events. I'm concerned about the weddings. We all know how weddings can be loud, especially with DJs. Just more frequent activities, and I don't know that we can ensure that they, I heard what the attorney said about carrying over prior rules of thumb, or however she worded it, but I don't know how we can ensure that they wouldn't continue with that noise amplification.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Has there ever been a noise study done for on either side?
Not that I'm aware of. Again, we haven't had concerns before, but just the number of increased activities is what the neighbors are alarmed to.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Opponents? Here we go.
Oh my gosh, I'm scared to give my address because I see they're Googling back there. But,
Good morning.
Bridget Loring, 1710 Doncaster Road, and I'm objecting to both. My objections, I won't continue on with what she said, obviously, those are there. Another place where we're concerned is we're unincorporated Largo, so those trucks and the different shuttle buses that they have in, that's gonna cause damage to the roads, and getting those repaved has been very challenging just for like normal potholes, let alone the excessive wear and tear from the trucks. Also, I submitted a packet this morning. We have over 380 times a day just from my Ring doorbell where people are walking. So to have that much extra activity where it's like a heavily walked neighborhood causes concern. Janet didn't mention that her dog was hit by a vehicle a couple months ago. So additional traffic is obviously a concern for us, for the kids and the animals. And then I just want to touch on a couple other things. Like, everybody loves it because it's tranquil. So do the people who moved there, you know, like we want it to stay that way. And then it was mentioned that the more experienced team came in, but they followed the previous team, and that's how the noise became a problem. Well, if you're a more experienced team, why are you taking information from a less experienced team who's being replaced? Like, they should have did their own investigation to see what could and could not be done in my case, I feel like. Also, I want to touch on their website doesn't match what they're saying. So on the website, it says many, many events. By definition on Oxford, many events is more than 4 weddings. So I feel like kind of jumping off of what Janet said, the number isn't clear how many there's going to be and how often it's going to be. So that causes a concern. Also with being unincorporated, sorry, I was here last month, so I'm just going to look over these notes. We use the Largo Fire Rescue Station 42. There's only 1 unit at that operates. So with these additional functions, that takes away from everybody else who uses the Largo Fire Department, who might have an emergency, and then if the wedding or something has a problem, now they're going to be at that wedding. So it takes away from the people who live there in the community. So I feel like that's a problem. I also would like to bring up that the streets are poorly lit, just by nature, it's unincorporated. So if you're having a wedding until 11 p.m. and then you have shuttle buses, that's very dangerous. And then as far as quality of living, so I'm an insurance agent, and as an insurance agent, one of our questions for personal lines home is how close are you, or is there a commercial property within so many feet? Some of us are gonna have to now say yes if it changes. And home insurance is already super expensive in the state of Florida. So to have to offset that because now they're no longer in equine therapy and now they're allowed to have weddings and corporate events, that would be an impact to all of us significantly, just with homeowners insurance being raised. Then we have to worry about the inspectors that come out and they're gonna look, and then it's gonna be like, oh, there's this event going on, like at 5:30, they're still sending inspectors. Citizens Insurance is still sending inspectors till 7 p.m. So if somebody sees that and hears that, that's a cause for us to be canceled, and then we have to find another homeowner insurance company. So that is troublesome. It's within itself, I feel like. And I understand, you know, they need to raise money and the galas, but they host galas Molly, I believe is who took over. Molly had a gala at Lake Hilton, which I have all of the stuff in the envelope that I submitted. And she does a really good job. And she networks with a lot of really good people. So I feel like she's only been there since October because she's new and she took over. She should be able to bring in more than enough money because according to the EIN that they have listed there, the operating cost is like $230,000 a year, and their gala brought in more than that. So there's not a need for these additional functions other than to maybe raise awareness that it's there, but you can do that other ways. Like social media has that. There's lots of ways to do it so other people can do it. And then I know it was discussed like, people with special needs, they need a place. Well, if you just go on Google and you put in places for special needs in Pinellas County, there's over 71 places that do it and over 41 with botanical type gardens. So it's not like the only one in Pinellas. There's multiples, and that's just off of a quick Largo rec search. You can find that. But I think that pretty much does it. But I did submit pictures too. If there's a FedEx truck, like one of those big box FedEx trucks, there's no room for another car to really go around. That's how tight the street is. So now, if they have event people coming a couple times a month to deliver these tents that they're gonna pop up, and they have people with the shuttles, like, it's gonna cause more than congestion, it's gonna cause problems, because Janet already said, on the edge, there's no sidewalk, so the road just crumbles. And I sent a picture, and it's in there as well for that. Thank you.
Any questions?
Just for clarification, when you talk about the change of use, and you use loosely the term commercial, there is no change in zoning that is being asked for. There is an existing type 2 use on this property. This is a modification of that type 2 use to further expand the capabilities. It still remains zoned RA, and that doesn't change. And within that zoning designation, certain types of special uses are allowed by what's called special exception, or now we call it a type 2 use, which is what this board can grant. So those are things that are allowed upon special granting from this board. It's not a change of zoning.
Right, and I
Just to
understand that from the county perspective. I was referring to that as the insurance inspector. And if you look at, and there's documentation in there where the insurers ask, the insurance companies ask questions.
Yeah, but the answer to that question is it's not really commercial use. I mean, there's a difference.
Okay, so my theory would be if that
It's an
were,
institutional, quasi-institutional use. But we're into semantics, and that's not relevant in this case.
I was just going off of the insurance.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else?
I'll go.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. You've been sworn in?
I have, yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
thank you.
My name's Amber Loring. I reside at 1738 Doncaster Road. So I'm not gonna do a ton because I would like to mimic what Janet and Bridget have both said. What I really just want to kind of make sure everyone on this board understands is that our family's been in that neighborhood since the 70s.
Ma'am, and
My
I hate
dad's
to
house.
interrupt you, but are you speaking to both the variance and the type 2
Oh, I'm
use?
sorry. Yes, sir. I'm speaking about both. Speaking about both.
Thank you.
So, our family's been in the neighborhood since the 70s, and Janet's right. The equine therapy program, that's amazing. We think that's great. Obviously, we all saw the PowerPoint and the video, and they do a lot of great stuff. But the road is unincorporated. The street is very dark. So when we're thinking about events, I want you to keep in mind of daylight savings when it gets dark at like 5 o'clock at night. And my little sister, who's 9, is walking from my dad's house to my house. And we walk with her, but she's getting older. Now she's got a scooter, she scoots around. There are a lot of kids that do that, okay? So I pay for the street light that lights up my yard. I have to pay Duke Energy every month. A lot of other residents don't have a light to turn on, and a lot of them don't want to pay for it, and that's fine. But unincorporated means it is very hard to get anything completed as far as street lights, street maintenance. So with the extra activity, as great as it sounds, it's just, I do see it being a problem, especially in noise, because I am actually across the street. So Janet's a little bit further down on the end, and I am across. So we do see that. I see people coming and going. I see people staggering around. It's just, I'm really concerned about the alcohol, if there's any being served at these events, and if people are walking around. I've had people knock on my door, like drunk people knock on my door. I'm not saying they're from that, but I'm just saying that has happened to me twice, and now we're bringing in the possibility of that happening a lot more. And I have a newborn now, so we're fostering her. We're going to adopt her. So the neighborhood is very important to us to stay calm, quiet. It's a family neighborhood, but that's all. I really wanted, because I know we're talking about streetlights, but daylight savings, 5 o'clock, it's dark on our street. So,
Any questions? Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Anybody else? All right.
The applicant
Jamie?
want to come back
Yeah,
and
Jamie,
rebut?
want to come back up?
Good morning again. This is Jamie Mayer of the law firm Howard Henderson, representing the applicant for the record. And I did want to clarify, yes, everything in the record that I submitted and previously discussed pertains to both cases. So all of my comments will pertain to both cases, just for record-keeping purposes. Sorry, I didn't quite understand your question earlier. So I think we did address, in my opinion, we addressed a lot of these concerns that came up. The noise is absolutely a mea culpa. Again, these prior conditions of approval, which are pretty much the same ones with respect to noise that are going to carry over if the board is inclined to approve this today, these things get lost like a game of telephone when the people who are actually operating the site were not there during the zoning. That is why I had a very frank conversation with everybody involved. Everybody who's here today is much more focused and much more aware by virtue of this process, which has really required us to commit to, okay, what are we really doing here? What are the conditions that apply? Everyone is more educated on it now. And I think that, candidly, code enforcement is always a way to ensure compliance. We're not aware that there have been any code enforcement or formalized complaints. We're not aware that any noise studies have been done. I don't think anybody's been out there with a decibel reader, but we also understand that amplified sound is not permitted. And everybody now understands that. So again, yes, there were people who had been operating it doing that, and as I mentioned, the new team took their cues from the old team because in practicality, ignorance is not an excuse, but it's very common, like I said, for these types of conditions to just not be communicated. Oftentimes the way people find out about these things is through code enforcement, and they find out, oh my gosh, I wasn't allowed to be doing that, I didn't realize that, I forgot, just anecdotally in my experience.
So you're saying that there will be no amplified
Correct.
music or DJs or?
Correct. That is a condition of approval. Everybody is very aware of that.
Okay.
And it has been a condition of approval, but it's also one that's going to carry over. And again, noise ordinance is what it is for things outside of amplified sound. Noise ordinances are what they are, and that is a separate section of the code. And again, code enforcement and complaints are the way that those things are handled. I think with respect to parking, what we're proposing here is a much more controlled, better situation. Not only, as you heard from staff, could they have, 60 events is a lot more than what, potentially 60 events is a lot more than what we're committing to do here with what you've seen in the proposed operations. And I just want to clarify that the weekly and daily programming, those are not special events. That is the core of what they provide on a regular basis, and they currently do that. They're just going to be able to do the other things that I described about the more, and that's the crux of this, is to be able to broaden what they do and keep doing what they do. And having the Sprinter van, we're not proposing a giant bus taking people back and forth. It's a van, so it's a vehicle that is much more controlled. There's a lot fewer cars when it comes to these special events that have a greater degree of traffic that warrants the need for these off-site parking lots. So I think that this is a commitment to something that is going to be much more controlled and much better with respect to the roads, with respect to the discussions about potential safety, with discussions about potential traffic. This is a reduction in the potential for traffic and a reduction in the potential for some unlimited number of special events, because again, they can currently hold special events under the broad temporary use permit section of the code, and they can still do that, but we're showing you what we're committing to, the types of events and the number of events and the number of programming that's proposed. And again, to your point, Mr. Baumstein, it's actually currently called an agricultural commercial use, is the current type 2 that they have. This is going to be club community service. I don't do insurance. I don't know what the distinction is really. It's still going to be the same use, but the word commercial actually won't be part of the type 2 use anymore for what that's worth. It'll be a community service type 2 approval. Candidly, I think that what is going on here, this is the kind of use that this site supports. It's a very unique site, a very unique configuration, a very unique environmental situation, and a very unique ability for them to do what they do. And if it's not a use like this that can sustain itself, I can't see it being anything other than developed for residential uses. I don't personally think that that is the right thing to do with this piece of property. And I think that, you know, again, there's a lot of directives to trying to preserve these large estate lots. There are folks across Allen Creek, just across there, who are dealing with fighting subdivision issues of these larger estate lots in this area. And we think that this is a controlled, good use of this property, and we respectfully request your approval. And if you have any further questions, myself and the team are here.
Jamie, I can't find it in the packet, but I recall seeing a chart of the number of uses. Was that part of your presentation? Yeah, okay. Can we get back to that? Because I think this becomes very relevant. So just going down the list, the first ones is large community events, up to 8 per year. What is a large community event? Is that 200 people? Is that 100 people? I don't know what that means. So.
I can confirm that with the applicant, but that's akin to what they currently do, and they don't use the maximum number of events that they currently could hold, but they do have, for example, Special Olympics training, or they have their signature annual fundraising event, which is their largest event. I think it can be around 100 to 200 people, and that's something that they've been having, and that's the one that they had in March that they were supposed to have in November. So those are those kind of events where it's Inspired Acres putting it on, which is what they currently are able to do.
That's already been going on.
Yes.
Is there a limit currently into how many of those can happen?
60 calendar days a year.
So you could have 60 of them?
You called events temporary, yes. As part of their previous approval, one of the conditions was the temporary use. So events fall under temporary use, and they would, that's allowed up to 60 days per year to hold temporary events.
And that's separate and apart from the regular
Correct.
Operational therapy sessions?
Yes, it's like a similar example is, you know, a church, if they're holding, you know, a carnival, or they want to have, you know, a special event with food trucks out there to as a fundraiser and stuff. That's an example of this temporary uses that they're allowed.
And there currently is no limit on the amount of regular sessions?
No, there was no limit on the equine therapy sessions, no.
Okay. So it's really only the first two items on this listing that raise any concerns for me. Because the others, 4 weddings a year, if you're not using amplified music and you're talking about 40 to 80 guests, in my opinion, would not be terribly disruptive. And all the rest of the uses are 10 and 15 people, and they're all equine related for the most part, or gardening related, and that's fine. But you know, the first 2 events, we don't have any stipulation as to the number of people involved, and I suspect it is somewhat significant, hence the need for the off-site parking, which I don't have a problem with the off-site parking. And I guess you're talking about 8 large events and potentially 36 medium events a year. I would feel better if you could quantify the number of people allowed at those events.
She sworn. And you've been sworn in?
Yes, I have been. Phil DeBlasi, 2980 Swan Circle, Dunedin, 34698. And this is regarding both cases. Yes, I've been sworn in. For, you know, the medium-sized events that you're talking about, it would be no more than 40 people. For the large community events like field days or things that we were doing, we'd be looking at no more than 110 people.
Currently, if we were to talk about medium events, the 40 people thing, which what you're asking for is up to 3 per month. Currently, how many of those are happening, if at all?
Currently none.
Okay. Could you live with less than 3 per month?
I think we could. Anything obviously is going to help as far as for us to be financially solvent. And
Yeah.
the idea is A, to serve more participants and do more for the community, which is the priority, but B, also to find out different ways to diversify and come up with possible income streams for us.
Yeah. I don't think that 40 people in a 12-acre parcel utilizing the facility is, intrusive to the neighborhood. I don't think that the traffic created by 40 people is terrible either. The big deal is going to be the weddings or the large community events where you're talking about up to 110 people, and that's at 8 per year. And it's seasonal. Did that one say seasonal? No. Okay.
Yeah, the weddings are
Weddings are
seasonal.
seasonal.
Weddings are seasonal.
The large community events are.
I'm sorry, those are 4 per year, which I already clarified. I didn't really have a problem with that. It's the large
The 8,
events.
yeah, the 8.
The 8 events at 100 and some people. And those are evenings up until 8 p.m., weekends 10 to 4, possibly till 8. So it's evenings and weekends till 8.
And if you put, you mentioned tents at one point or something, there'd be tents, because I mean, it's a huge piece of property, like where the parking is or someplace else on the property, or I don't, just,
That's not a very good.
So,
Well,
yeah, and-
I would, is there a mouse or anything like that?
No, there's no point.
Okay, well, so if you look at this, the area kind of to the northeast
There you
of
go.
these structures. Oh,
there you go.
We'll go old school.
Thank you.
thank you. So kind of,
You move in, move. Yeah, there.
the-
And we do have covered area so that tents aren't necessary, but for certain
Yeah, that's what I
occasions, it
thought.
might be something that, yeah.
And also, this is a riding arena. It's humongous, and that is another area that they've had, like these Special Olympics training type events, for example.
We can't really see it. It's
Pretty blurry.
it's blurry. It's not you. It's the
Yeah, it's the
camera.
Oh, can we
the
fix
old
that?
school camera. I know, where are they?
Oh, it's coming into focus.
Oh, there we go. That's
got it,
better.
they got it.
That's
Okay,
better.
so, thank you. Okay, so this is the outdoor area where they have enough ability, and this is, they actually own this part up here, and that's just environmental, that's open space, and they also have this strip, so these two areas are connected. This is the outdoor space, and then this is a very large arena where, of course, they have, their riding, but also this is where they've held events like the Special Olympics training.
And you come in the red square, is that the driveway coming in over here?
Yes,
Yeah,
and
okay.
this is actually zoned R3.
Okay.
So that provides an additional area where, they can't be setting up special events there because this is the
This
RA
is-
portion.
okay.
Residential agriculture.
That kind of
This is
explains it
R3.
too. Okay.
And for what it's worth, there is common ownership by the applicant of this, the north 1737 Doncaster. So that adds an additional layer of buffering, and they also own one of the properties up here.
So, go ahead. So as the existing zoning as it is now, you can have a temporary use permit up to 60 times a year. Is there a limitation on the personnel, Mr. Schoederocker? Is there a limitation on how many people they can have during those 60-time temporary use permits?
No, when they would apply for them, they have to be able to meet parking requirements, any, capacity, if the fire marshal requires any anything, that's what's going to dictate it. So it all depends on their ability to be able to have all those people on the site, park them on the site, have all the facilities. If they were needing to get into public right-of-way, then that trips into our special events permitting, which then has additional layer of requirements. Public Works gets involved to make sure that they're meeting requirements of the county.
Okay, thank you. And my other question is, in the previous application for the zoning change in 2020, there was also a requirement that you stated that there was no use of amplified noise at that time.
Correct.
So, in 5 years, I'm sure we could ask the residents of how many times has there been amplified music. I've never been to a wedding that has not had amplified music. That'll be challenging.
Yes.
So I would ask the applicants what's different now between this request and the one that was made in 2020 that also specified there was no amplified music or amplification of sound.
That's correct. I think the difference is everyone's who's actually doing the day-to-day operations are well aware of the conditions. Candidly, they were not. I mean, I can speak to that personally. I educated them on what they are and what they will be. So, and this is really important to them. It's much more important for them to, yes, they may have to use some creativity. I mean, I'm personally, for my wedding, I'm gonna have string instruments. They don't need a speaker or, an amplifier. So I think there are ways, you can have silent discos. There's different things that people can do, and it's just much more important for them to be able to use it for these kind of purposes. It's a beautiful piece of property. I think the weddings will speak for themselves. And they do have some structures on there as well, so they could be some partial indoor uses. Then you could have, somebody inside, obviously, playing indoor, whatever they're doing. Like it's at the house. There's a house on the structure. It's just for operations. So yeah, I think the difference is that they're very well aware. It's just much more important for them to be able to have this revenue to continue to fund everything that they're doing, because it's not going to last in perpetuity if they can't.
And as a special use permit, would that still prohibit a wedding? Or would that allow a wedding if they submitted under current zoning regulations now, if they requested a special use permit for, let's say, a wedding?
No. Weddings are captured under our community events meeting hall use. Right now, for these temporary events, it would be, again, fundraising, carnivals, stuff like that.
So a wedding would not be permitted
No.
currently on the existing ProMat?
Under a temporary use, no.
Thank you.
I want to clarify that you'd have to make a condition if you approve this to add the no amplified music, because outdoor amplification is allowed under the meeting hall use. It just has to be oriented away from the residential, so all the speakers, everything has to be turned away from the residential. So it is allowed if the applicant agreed. If no amplified music, if this was approved, you would have to add that as another condition on there.
And my understanding was the prior conditions that we're just carrying them over. So I apologize if that was not clear. I mean, there's no amplified sound is allowed under the prior conditions, so we're incorporating those prior conditions by reference. If we want to state it on the face of the new approval, as opposed to just saying all of the prior conditions of approval, but knowing what the prior conditions of approval were, prohibiting the amplified sound, that's been my understanding. So yes, that is something that we have made clear to the operating team.
So I have a question about the number of guests. I'm assuming since they're labeled as guests, that does not include staff.
I think that would be correct, yes.
So is that a fire code thing? So if it's 80 that we say, and then there's 10 staff, there's really 90? Does that number does that trip a wire by maxing out guests plus staff?
I don't think we don't have anything in there that talks about it. Again, is they'd have to be able to accommodate. So if they were having, staff that were setting up and then leaving, that weren't there, but you'd count everybody at the same time. So if they had 100 guests, plus there was 30 staff at the same time, you'd look at that maximum capacity of people.
Gotcha. And then just 2 quick points of clarification. I think Ms. Muscolino mentioned a time frame of 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., but that didn't really jibe with Jenny's chart.
So our noise ordinance lists in residential areas is 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. The maximum decibels at a property line is 72. And then 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., that drops down to 55 decibels.
Got it. And then she also mentioned something about 200 attendees. Was that a previous management thing? Because I saw in the large events, it looked like 80.
Again, they're fundraising as a temporary use. Fundraising, promotional activities are permitted. There is no maximum capacity on that. It depends on, what they can fit on the site facilities, yes.
Got it.
And they're not fitting in a building.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions?
So I think just clarification. So in the 2020 application, you said there was some kind of agreement to not use amplified sound. Was that correct?
That was a condition of approval that I know, I was not personally involved in that, but I know my colleague Katie Cole was. And our understanding was those conditions were going to carry over.
Okay. Do we have that on the record somewhere?
If we want to just
In the letter from
place it on the.
in the letter from the 2020, there's not a condition that I see on there about no amplified music. If that was agreed upon, it may not have gotten into the record.
And that's you're referencing the rendition letter from January 2nd, 2020?
Yes, regarding the previous BA case, BAA 20-1, which approved the therapeutic sessions of equine related.
You can state it again.
Right, I mean, so where I was going with that is, and I think it would benefit all of us if the board is inclined to approval with conditions, is to set forth conditions explicitly, so that the next rendition letter, if that's the direction the board goes, has them laid out.
Yeah.
So they communicate, there's no.
Were there other
nothing's
conditions
vague.
on that? I don't even.
I'm looking at it, I don't see any conditions on that 2020 approval.
2020 approval, the conditions were specific use standards for the agricultural activities and farm animals, the standards for temporary uses, and provide a notification to the county for large special events. Those are the only three that were in the 2020 letter. Current conditions related to the modification of the type 2 use include those previous BA standards, and then adding the specific use standards relating to meeting hall, community assembly facilities, which would capture the events. Again, nothing specific related to no amplified music, which that would need to be added if there was an approval.
Okay, so apparently we haven't been violating our conditions of approval. I guess, I'll be entirely honest with you, that's something we had discussed with staff a few times, because that was something that my understanding on the prior approval was something that was talked about at length with this board. I know there's not all the same people are here as they were 5 years ago. I understand it's really important to the neighbors, but I just want to say, reducing it from, I think maybe then there's maybe an opportunity here to be in line with noise ordinances and have some creative conditions. I don't actually want to give up something that the applicant currently has, to be honest with you, and I will have to talk with Katie about this, but what parameters could we put in place to not basically, we're already giving up the ability to have 60 events a year, and apparently with amplified sound. We're putting parameters on it and saying when the events will occur, how many of each kind will occur.
All right.
I'd be curious, to know what this board's sensitivity is to placing. We can talk about some conditions if you want us to take a sidebar and discuss. Otherwise, just let me know what you're thinking.
If the zoning changes, you're not giving up 60 events a year.
Well, if we're committing to, we are committing to a certain number. So we're not saying, hey, okay, now this is just going to keep.
Temp use permits would still be allowed to be, it wouldn't exclude you from receiving temp use permits after the fact.
I guess what I'm trying to convey is we're committing to a certain amount. So we are not keeping that open door to, I guess, 60 per year. We're saying what types, how many, what times of the day, seasonal, et cetera. So that sheet is to show you what we're committing to, if that's clear.
Is the 60 in code, or is that the commitment of the applicant?
That's in the code.
In the code, under temporary uses, so to allow these temporary uses, it's 60 days per calendar year.
Okay.
Maximum.
So really, the commitment is the makeup of those 60 days, not the 60 days itself, since that's already in code.
I think it's correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's a commitment of how many.
If further limiting, like the current use on the property, the equine-related therapy. So the approval was under commercial, agricultural activities, commercial use. That's in the code. But it was further restricted down to just these equine-related therapeutic use. So that's something, if the board wish to look at as like under the meeting event-based use, further limiting to certain type of uses, like per what they provided, that could be added on as a condition that only these uses are allowed. So not the broader use captured under the use in the code.
I have a question, if I'm allowed. I'm a non-voting member, just for the record, but I am code enforcement. I'm the operations manager with code enforcement. So, again, for the record, I don't vote. I have nothing to do with the vote. It's my colleagues over here. But I have a question for you. You mentioned that you have off-site parking at the school and at the church. Did you get permission from the school board and from the actual synagogue, if you will, saying that you have permission? So it's from the actual school board and not just some random person in the office that you possibly walked in to ask?
Yeah, the school, it's an application process, and so in the past, we have used it. They provide that access as long as it's not during their working hours or during, their school sessions. So anything that was weekends or after hours, it's an application that we go through.
Okay, the reason I'm saying
Yes.
this is because if they came in after the fact and said, oh, you're liability, you can't be here, then your vehicles are gonna end up on the property and you know who's getting called. So I'm just letting you know. And also, for the record, we haven't had a call out there as of yet, okay? I have officers that work out there, they're all noise certified, they go to school for it. A citizen can call up if they have a problem with the noise, as you know. But also you as a property owner, if you think you're gonna have an event, and I know we said amplified noise, and that's their business to determine that, okay? But I just want you also to know as having a function, you can call us also, and if we know in advance, you can call us and say, hey, I'm having a party or wedding or whatever on Wednesday night. Can you have one of your guys come out and take a noise reading for me? And that way if they're out there taking the noise reading, and say, hey, you got to turn it down. If you decide to go to amplified music, and I'm not involved with that, we can certainly do that too for you, but also to the citizens that are possibly saying you're too loud and all that other stuff. If we don't know what's happening, my guys aren't coming out. And that's all. I'll just tell you, if you think there's a problem, give us a call. We'll be more than happy to come out and help whoever on that situation.
Thank you. That's good information.
Good morning, Katie Cole with Hillward Henderson, and I'm sorry for jumping in and interrupting. I just wanted to offer some couple clarifications. With respect to the amplified noise, the use that's being requested today has a list of very specific use standards, which is what your code does for all uses. Within those specific use standards for community events, which is or community classification, which is what the type 2 request is today, there is a condition or a requirement in that standard to not have amplified noise facing residential districts. So that it's not a condition of this proposal, it is a code requirement that it can't face a residential district. And that's already in your code. No amplified noise facing a residential district. And that's section 132.3294. So I wanted to offer that clarification. Secondly, with respect to the temporary use standards and applications, today, as Mr. Schotterbach said, excuse me, I was reading quickly and writing, so I was out of breath, that you have up to 60 days a year to have a special event. Those special event permits are submitted to the county. They review for both traffic impacts. If there's a tent, the fire marshal has to inspect the tent. There has to be appropriate ingress, egress. That's for all residential standards or residential properties or really any special event in the county. That's how the county currently operates it. So those 60 days a year, by virtue, part of this request predominantly was the applicant's concern that their veterans programs, their cooking classes, anything that was not horse related because of the condition that Mr. Schotterbach said, which limited this use to equine related therapy, they were concerned that a code enforcement action could be brought for the cooking class inside, right? So that is not what they wanted. So they applied for this temporary type 2 use to modify that to the community center to allow for this diversity of uses. Again, it's not really a change, but it is bringing them in compliance with what their goals and visions are for their
And what they
organization
probably were
today.
doing.
And candidly,
Actually.
yes, you're right, for what they're actually kind of doing today. So with respect to the events, which we appreciate is a concern of the neighbors, this does, part of the very extensive conversations that my partner and our clients had with staff was how do you protect those events? How do you limit them from the 60 days a year? How do you specify how many people are there? What is that transportation? And so that's why the application includes a very specific list limiting the number of events.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, she was not sworn. I was not.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
Oh,
I did not.
None of what you
Because I said I
said
wasn't going to
counts.
speak. Can I be sworn
Strike
in?
that from the record.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
Can
We
you
can
be
swear
sworn
me
in?
in now, and then I will repeat or incorporate by reference. Please do solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give before today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. If so, please signify by saying I do. I do, and I'll also
You're the
fill
only
out a
one I didn't
card.
ask.
I know, I wasn't, well, I
Shoot.
wasn't supposed to speak today, so.
And Madam Chair, I
Yes.
mean, what the board can do as it pleases. I don't typically, if members have sworn an oath to the Florida Bar and they're making legal advocacy statements and they're not telling war stories from another case, it's not a fact of record in the, I don't typically advise boards that they have to swear them out.
Yeah.
Okay.
If they start going outside the facts of record and, start telling stories about the past, then
We've
they become
actually
witnesses, but.
we've actually had attorneys here in the past who argued with us about the need to be sworn in.
Well, it varies on what they say. If they're talking about what's already of record
Yeah.
or the code or the Florida statutes, that's one thing. If they're starting to talk about past personal experiences and things, then they become witnesses and they need to, in my opinion, need to be sworn. But
Mr. Schotterbach, I have, I'm not sure that I want to go here, but I'm going to bring this up anyway. We've had times in the past, and I'm thinking about the craft brewery days, adult use days, where we've had the potential for disruption occurring within adjacent neighborhoods. And we have had approvals that had a one-year approval with the requirement to revisit it after a year to make sure that that craft brewery wasn't creating disturbance in the neighborhood. Is that an option that would still be on the table if we wanted to pursue that, or is that too troublesome?
I think the proper direction on that would be that if there's code enforcement complaints, and we do have under the type 2 approval, if they're not meeting the conditions as stated, they're exceeding the use that was permitted, there is an option to bring it back for revocation or modification of the type 2 use approval. I think monitoring of that would be if there is code complaints coming in that say that they are not following the rules of approval, and we have evidence of that to bring back to the board, then staff could bring that back for modification or revocation.
Okay. Ball's going to be in your court.
Yeah.
Right, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? I'll close the public hearing and see where it goes. I'm sorry, I
Remember-
closed it. Sorry.
There's two separate cases, the variance
Right.
and the type 2 use.
It'll be two different motions and votes.
Okay, okay.
Do you care which comes first?
Probably the one that was on the agenda first, which was
Parking.
Variance was listed first, it doesn't matter which.
But the variance, see, here, my point is the variance is kind of moot if you don't have the
Right,
type,
yeah.
the type 2, so
Yes.
I would actually reverse that, and
the board can,
It's not.
No, because they could use the variance for the 60
That's
uses
true.
per year.
If
That's
the
true.
type 2 use was
That's true.
denied,
you could still have the
they could
variance.
still, if
Still
they
use it.
have events at the
Still use the parking.
Yeah.
so can I just clarify one, and I know it's been well-trodden ground at this point, but in 138, 3294, the sentence states, "No speaker or amplified announcement device shall be oriented to the residential district." It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Doesn't mean it's not on.
Aiming the other way.
Just, yeah, it's just which way is it aimed. So
The hard
that's
part is
exactly
they're
what
in
the
the
language,
middle of
that's the exact language from the code. And I just wanted the board to be aware that that's what it says.
They're surrounded by residential, that's the hard part.
Well,
Is there a distance of
Not
residential
really.
space is supposed to be? Because like theoretically, right,
lake,
you're always facing some kind of residence.
That was the entire code
That's the
provision.
code.
No speaker or amplified announcement device shall be oriented to the residential district, period. That's the end of the sentence.
That's big. Okay.
What's the feeling?
It's the feeling. It's all in the feeling of words.
I think first off, let me just say that I did visit the site, and I drove the neighborhood, and I drove all the streets in the neighborhood, and I approached both from the site, from the road alongside the temple, and also from the road alongside the school, and drove back in and out both ways. And it is a lovely, quiet neighborhood. The roads are clearly residential in nature. They're not designed as through roads. You would not expect through traffic to be on those roads. And it is a haven within the area it's at. I had not been back there before, and I was pleasantly surprised to visit it. This center provides a lot of good, and it has existed there for a significant amount of time, doing what it's doing, with minimal disruption to the neighborhood. I don't have a problem with the request for the specific uses that have been outlined. I would prefer, and I will actually make a recommendation for conditional approval, but I would limit the large gatherings to 6 rather than the 8 that is being asked for. And I would limit the 3 event per month medium gatherings to 2 per month. And I would incorporate the no amplified music condition, and those are the conditions with the hours that were stipulated by the applicant on the list that they provided. And all of this in accordance with the findings of fact that the staff outlined in the type 2 use. And understand that we will ask code enforcement to monitor this and revisit it if necessary. And likewise, the applicant would have the ability to come back and request the removal of the constraints that I'm asking to put on in the conditional approval of the limitation changes that I'm requesting. And with that, I make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second this.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Warner. There's a motion by Mr. Baumstein, a second by Mr. Warner. Is there any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Is this for the variance or for the type 2?
This is for the type 2.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Put your
Aye.
hand up, I guess.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so it passes 6-1.
As to the variance, I don't think the variance creates problems that are of a magnitude as such that that should not be granted, especially in light of the fact that we just approved the type 2 use. There will be a need for parking. So I will move to approve the variance in accordance with the findings of fact as outlined in the staff report.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Okay, any other discussion? There's a motion by Mr. Baumstein and a second by Mr. Bello. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It passes 7-0. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Baumstein. For sure.
Ready for the next
Sure.
case?
Sure.
There's more.
All right.
And there's more.
Our next case is VAR-25-01. This is a variance to allow for an after-the-fact 512 square foot detached garage under construction having a 4-foot 6-inch side setback from the western property line where 6 feet is required for the property located at 3780 45th Avenue North in Lillman. Staff recommends conditional approval. So this request, as it came in, appears to meet the criteria for the provisions of an after-the-fact variance found in section 138.32 of the code. Property is developed with a single-family home, approximately 594 square feet in area. The lot in question is a narrow, substandard lot of record, which complicates compliance with the minimum side setback. So there is construction of the after-the-fact 512 square foot 1-story detached garage intended for vehicular parking and personal storage. So the applicant secured a building permit in September of 2024, which had on there confirmed adherence of all minimum building setbacks and regulations, resulting in the building permit's issuance. However, during the slab inspection, the inspector noted that the slab had been improperly poured into the side setback area. This oversight was attributed to the applicant's miscalculation of measuring the required side setback. So based on our review of that, it was considered construction in error, and they did secure permits, which allows them to come in and apply for an after-the-fact variance. The applicant has provided architectural elevations of the proposed detached garage, which complements the front elevation of the existing single-family home. Proposed design meets the intent of the residential accessory structures and uses section concerning architectural compatibility. And again, staff recommends conditional approval.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Your name and address, please?
Reynaldo Fernandez, 4706 30 Avenue North, St. Pete.
Okay. And you're sworn in? You've been sworn in?
Guessing you sworn.
Yeah, I did.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes. Do you
Sorry,
want-
my
I'm also
translator.
sworn in, Rolando Fernandez.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Are there any objectors to this case?
One question. Is this considered an accessory building?
Yes, accessory structure, yes.
And remind me again, we changed the code so the accessory structure can be of what size related to the main structure?
It has to be subordinate in area and
Just 1 square foot smaller than the main house?
Right, so the main house is 594, they come in with 512.
Yeah, okay. Because previously, it was much more constraining, the code. Yeah.
Yeah, and previously, we also used to lump in accessory dwelling units with it. That's been separated. So accessory structures and accessory dwelling units are treated differently. So yeah, there was additional constraints.
Okay. Seeing no objectors, I'll move for staff recommendation of conditional approval in accordance with the findings of fact as outlined in the staff report.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Baumstein, a second by Mr. Hunsiger, Holloway. No, Holloway. Oh, whatever. Is there any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 7-1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
7-0, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we're at the end,
Okay.
right?
The last one.
Back to the horses.
No.
Back to the races.
This next case is NCM-25-01. This is a non-conforming use modification to permit a 14,000 square foot covered roof structure over an existing horse riding arena in an RA zone for the property located at 10505 60th Street North in unincorporated Pinellas Park. Staff recommends conditional approval. The property in question is known as Anvil Acres. It spans approximately 3.7 acres, while the applicant owns a total of around 10 acres. The site is dedicated to commercial agricultural activities featuring facilities such as horse riding arenas for training, boarding, stables, jumping fields, and a trail course. And these are for their members that board horses there. The adjacent land uses consist of detached single-family residential to the north, east, and west, with agricultural to the south. In 1980, the previous owner applied for a rezoning. At that time, the property was equipped with barn stables and a riding ring, which were utilized for riding and boarding operations. Historical documentation reveals that this use has been established for several years prior to the rezoning action. Additionally, an amendment to the zoning regulation in 1980 did designate this property as a non-conforming use. The applicant intends to construct this new open-walled metal roof structure measuring 14,000 square feet over the existing riding arena to be approximately 20 feet in height. Currently, no additional modifications to the site are being proposed. The covered structure aims to provide protection for the horses from environmental conditions and enhance the comfort of the riders. Staff's opinion that this proposed roof covering for the existing riding arena will enhance the property, will not lead to any increased traffic, and will be compatible with the surrounding development. So they're not adding any additional uses. It's currently for their existing customers that they have. Again, staff recommends conditional approval of this non-conforming use modification.
Good morning. Your
morning.
name
How
and
y'all
address,
doing
please.
I'm John Cook at 1345 North Falkenberg Road, Tampa, Florida. I'm the general contractor and the applicant of this non-conforming case.
Okay. Are there any objectors? Which I see no one.
I also have the owner of the Anvil Acres with me. If you guys have any comments on or questions about the usage of it, she would be happy to assist. She's sworn in.
Thank you. I'm thinking not.
All right, seeing, I guess you're waiting on me?
I guess, or anyone.
I don't have an issue with this. Shade is a good thing.
For sure.
I'm going to move for staff recommendation of conditional approval in accordance with the findings of fact as outlined in the staff report.
Is there a second?
Second. Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Baumstein, a second by Mr. Bello. Is there any discussion? All All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 7-0. You have your variance.
Thank you, guys. Enjoy your day.
Thank you. Here's the minutes. Probably have it somewhere.
We still have the minutes.
Minutes of February 6th,
We did have minutes of
Almost.
the February meeting.
February 5th, sorry.
February 5th. Move to approve the minutes of the February 5th meeting.
Second.
All in favor, Mr. Baumstein and Mr. Bello, all in favor, say aye.
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 It passes 7-0.
Way. See you, man.
Trash can. You can adjourn the meeting.
Get ready for phone calls.
Madam Chair.
She already took me to the comment. I can't believe that everybody had problems. The 9 o'clock that we're.
But other than that, doing well. What about you?
Oh, geez. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Are you from?
Today to do 2 hours.
Oh.
Still took me 2 hours.
We're adjourned. Thank you.